Corper Tony walked into Ikede village feeling like a king. His NYSC uniform was freshly ironed, his white sneakers shining like he just bought them that morning. The village girls giggled as he passed, whispering among themselves, "See as he is fine." One of them whispered. Tony smiled. He knew he was fine. Tall, dark-skinned, and with a deep voice that made women turn their heads. He was every village girl's dream, and Tony, he loved the attention. "This village goes sweet," he muttered to himself as he carried his bag to his place of assignment, the only secondary school in Ikede. He had barely spent 2 weeks when rumors started flying. Corper Tony don't take over. The palm wine tapper, Baba Madu, told his friends one evening. Every girl they rush am. And it was true. Tony moved from one girl to another like a bee enjoying different flowers. He had no worries. After all, he was just there for 1 year. Why not enjoy himself? His favorite was Amaka, the beautiful daughter of Chief Omogo. She was tall and dark-skinned, with a smile that would make a man forget his mother's name. Amaka had many village boys running after her, but she only had eyes for the fine copper from the city. And Tony, he didn't waste time. "I go carry this one enter my record book," he told his friend Corper Jide one evening. "Tony, be careful oh," Jide warned. "Her papa na chief. If anything happen, you fit enter big trouble." But Tony laughed. "Forget that thing. I can handle myself. Village girl who can't even read or write, or even speak correct English. Is it that one I should worry myself about? My dear, I go chop and clean out. I like the girl's vibes. I will just close my ears to her bad English and lick some sauce from her. You understand?" They both laughed. One morning, just as Tony was getting ready for school, someone banged on his door. "Corper Tony! Corper Tony!" He opened it and saw Amaka breathing heavily. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. "What is it?" he asked. "Tony, I'm pregnant." Tony's body went cold. "Pregnant? How? When?" Amaka folded her arms and gave him a look. "You dey ask me? No be you do am." Tony sat down. His head was spinning. This was not part of the plan. He just wanted to enjoy himself and go back to the city after his NYSC. A baby was not in the equation. "Amaka, are you sure?" he whispered. Amaka eased. "If I no sure, I for not come here oh." Tony swallowed hard. Okay, don't panic. We'll find a solution." The next morning, at about 6:15 a.m., he had another loud knock on his door. It was not an ordinary knock. This one had authority. Tony opened the door, and his heart nearly jumped out of his chest. Standing there was Chief Omogo, surrounded by 5 hefty village men. "Corper Tony," the chief said. His voice was like thunder. "You have done what no man dares to do. You have impregnated my daughter." Tony opened his mouth to speak, but no words came out. "Now," the chief continued, "you have only 2 options. Marry her, or you will never leave this village again." Tony's leg became weak. His life was about to change forever. Before Tony could even process what was happening, the whole village had heard the news. Some people laughed. Others shook their head. "Ah, fine copper don't enter wahala," one old woman said. "He thinks say if he play with Chief Omogo pikin," another man added. The wedding was arranged immediately. No time for long talk. No time to even inform his family. Tony wanted to run. But where would he go to? The village boys were already watching his every move, And even if he succeeded, that means abandoning his NYSC program, which was compulsory for a fresh graduate. And so, 3 days later, under the big Iroko tree in the village square, Tony found himself dressed in a traditional wrapper, standing beside Amaka, the woman he never planned to marry. As the eldest chief blessed the union, Tony's mind kept screaming one thing. I am finished. After the wedding, the village women escorted Amaka to Tony's small copper lodge, singing and clapping. Tony followed behind like a prisoner being led to his cell. "Corper Tony, you be real man, oh," one man shouted, laughing at him. Tony forced a smile, but inside, he was crying. When they entered the house, Amaka locked the door and smiled at him. "My husband," she said sweetly. "I be your wife now." Tony collapsed onto the bed, holding his head. Jesus. Amaka frowned. "Which one is that one now? You no happy say you marry me?" Tony sighed. "Amaka, I didn't plan for this." Amaka's eyes flashed with anger. So na play you come play for this village, abi? You think say I be other girls?" Tony quickly raised his hand. "No, don't be offended. I just need time to adjust." Amaka eased and turned away. "No wahala o, but just know say from today, na me be your wife. Me and you have marriage." The sound of that wrong English sent shivers down Tony's spine. What has he gotten himself into? He shook his head. Tony, a graduate of civil engineering from Obafemi Awolowo University, getting married to a girl who can communicate in proper English. He said to himself silently. Tony looked at her and realized something. Amaka was not just a village girl. She was her father's daughter, tough, determined, and ready to deal with him. That night he didn't sleep. He just lay on the bed staring at the ceiling, wondering how his life had turned upside down. Tony quickly realized that marrying Amaka came with many problems. First, her inability to speak English well, which was going to affect him badly. One morning, he told her, "Amaka, I want to eat something light." She smiled and nodded. "Okay, my husband." An hour later, she returned with a big bowl of fufu and egusi soup. Tony's eyes almost popped out. "Amaka, I said something light." She looked confused. "This one no light. The fufu no soft." Another day, she tried to make tea for him. Instead of adding sugar, she put salt. Tony spat it out, coughing. "Amaka, this is not sugar." She answered and said, "All of them are white. How I want to know?" Tony wanted to run mad. "But it's labeled now. Can't you read? How do you even cook in your house?" That statement got her really pissed. "Abeg, no insult me. If you don't want drink tea, you leave her." But the worst problem was Amaka was stubborn. She didn't want to learn. Tony knew his wife was an illiterate, but nothing prepared him for the greater disaster she would cause in the house. The first time he brought ketchup and mayonnaise from town, he saw Amaka scooping mayonnaise into a frying pan. He rushed to her. "Amaka, what are you doing?" She smiled. "I dey fry plantain with mayonnaise." She nodded. "Yes. Oil no dey house, and this thing, it be like oil now." Tony almost collapsed. He quickly grabbed the pan before she poisoned both of them. Another time he brought macaroni home. He expected a nice meal when he returned from work. Instead, he saw Amaka chewing the raw macaroni like granuts. "Amaka, why are you eating it like this?" he shouted. "You have to cook it." She frowned. "You say make I cook am?" E get shape like groundnut now, so I think say na Oribo snacks. Tony held his head. This woman will kill me. Does it taste like groundnut? But the worst was the day she mistook Cocobutter body cream Tony bought for margarine. One morning, Tony was in the bedroom when he heard Amaka humming happily in the kitchen. He smiled, thinking she was preparing something nice. Then she walked in, holding a plate of bread and what looked like butter on it. My husband, take. Tony picked the bread, took a big bite, and froze. Something was off. It wasn't butter. It wasn't even margarine. It was Cocobutter, his body cream. Tony spat it out immediately. Amaka, what is this again? Amaka looked confused. It's butter now. It dey inside cup. Tony ran to the kitchen. The cup of blue band margarine was still there untouched. But beside it was a similar cup, one he had brought from the city. It was Cocobutter cream, meant for his dry skin. Tony almost fainted. You mean you have been eating this thing since? Amaka nodded. Yes, and it's very sweet. I even used small fried egg yesterday, and that was the last straw. Tony knew he had to escape this village before Amaka finished him completely. Tony spent months planning his escape. First, he stopped bringing valuables to the village. He knew if he ran away, he wouldn't be able to return for them. Next, he saved up small money from his NYSC allowance. And most importantly, he waited for the perfect moment, his passing out parade. The day of his passing out parade arrived after a year of service in Ikede village. Tony stood among his fellow corps members, dressed in his neatly ironed khaki, the NYSC crested vest hugging his frame. But while others were celebrating, his mind was somewhere else, on his escape plan. For months, he had been plotting to elope, to disappear without a trace. Life had felt so predictable, too suffocating. He longed for his freedom, a fresh start, far from Amaka and responsibilities. Yet, when the moment came, something held him back. Maybe it was fear, maybe it was love. Whatever it was, he couldn't go through with his plans any longer. So he went back home. 3 weeks later, an unexpected opportunity came. A job offer in Lagos. An oil company was willing to take him in. The salary was good. The benefits even better. There was no question about it. He had to go. But he wasn't going alone. His wife Amaka was pregnant. And as much as he wanted to leave quickly, he couldn't abandon her. They packed their bags and moved to the city of Lagos together. For Amaka, Lagos was a different world. The buildings, the traffic, the endless sea of people. It all fascinated her. But adjusting wasn't easy. She made mistakes around the house, plenty of them. One evening, Tony walked into the kitchen and froze. His wife was chipping at the freezer with a knife, trying to remove ice stuck to the walls. Amaka, he shouted, rushing to her. You will spoil the freezer. Who told you to do that? A knife inside the freezer? She blinked innocently. The eyes no one comot. How else I go take comot am? Another day, she was trying to warm water in a plastic bowl in the microwave, without realizing that plastics can melt. All because Tony told her the microwave makes food warm. She placed a plastic container filled with water inside, set the timer, and watched in shock as the plastic started to wrap. Panicking, she quickly opened the microwave, grabbed the hot melting bowl with her bare hands, and ended up screaming as the water spilled everywhere. Tony heard her voice and ran to the kitchen. I Amaka, do you want to burn down the house? I no know say you no fit enter. No be you talk say if he make food warm? If he also make water hot, abi? Tony looked at her. He was so embarrassed. But despite her struggles, time passed, and soon she was 4 months into her new life in Lagos. Then the big moment came. She gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. Their new beginning was not without its challenges. But as Tony watched his wife care for their daughter, he realized that despite everything, he may have made a good choice. At first, Tony was happy in Lagos. His new job, a steady income, and a growing family. But soon something changed. His office was filled with sophisticated women, polished, well-spoken, and confident. The contrast between them and Amaka was too glaring. Every day, he saw women who knew the right perfumes to wear, the right things to say, the right ways to carry themselves. The thought of going home to Amaka with her village mannerism and simple ways started to torment him. Slowly, he began avoiding being seen with her in public. She was an embarrassment. And the worst part, she didn't even notice. She was just happy to be in the city, feeling superior to anyone back in the village. Then it happened. Tony met someone else. She was cute, classy, and intelligent. His exact spec. He fell for her effortlessly. And though he tried to hide it, Amaka wasn't stupid. One evening, as she scrolled through his phone, she saw a picture of the girl and Tony in a compromising position. Amaka stared at the screen. Her heart should have shattered, but instead, she sighed. See as this girl clean, she thought. No be Tony fault, sha. If na me, I for choose am too. Very polished girl, very clean. For days, Amaka kept quiet. Not even a sign of anger in her heart. She understood. Tony may have every right to cheat. The girl was stunning. Everything she was not. But that didn't mean she wouldn't try. One evening, she turned to Tony. My husband, abeg, give me money. I want buy some new clothes. Tony was stunned. Since when? I have begged you to change your wardrobe. You refused. What happened? She just laughed. Give me money, Joe. Best you know they change in mind. Without questioning further, Tony handed her some cash. The next day, Amaka stormed the market and bought the most beautiful clothes she had ever owned. She braided her hair in a modern, stylish way and even got her nails done. When Tony came home that evening, he stopped in his tracks. Amaka, what happened to you? You are looking so different, so beautiful. Wow! Amaka basked in the compliment, feeling something stir inside her. She liked this new version of herself, and she knew she would never go back to her old self. 2 weeks later, Tony came home with a big news. Babe, I was selected to go to Dubai for 3 months for a compulsory work training. Amaka forced a smile. Wow, that one good though, but inside her, she was far from happy. 3 months was a long time, but Amaka had a plan. As soon as Tony left, Amaka got to work. By day, she was a mother. By night, she was a student. She spent hours on YouTube watching English-speaking tutorials, studying the way sophisticated women walked, talked, and dressed. She wasn't just changing her wardrobe anymore. She was upgrading herself, her entire life. And if after all this effort, Tony still didn't come back to her fully and forget that girl at the office, then she would know they weren't even meant to be together. Amaka poured herself into her transformation. She wasn't just trying to impress her husband anymore. She was doing it for herself. She started speaking better, choosing her words carefully. When talking to Tony on the phone, her conversation started changing from the regular Nigerian pidgin English to conversations like, "Hi baby, how is your training today? Did you have lunch?" She would ask during their phone calls. The English was not perfect, but it was a good step. Tony noticed the change. He didn't say anything at first, but he was amazed. This wasn't the same Amaka he left behind. Then one evening, something happened that forced him to speak out. His phone buzzed with a message from Amaka. "Baby, how are you doing? Just wanted to let you know that your daughter and I miss you so much." Tony froze. He read the message again, then again. He immediately called her. "Amaka, who sent that message?" She laughed. "It's me now." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Please, whatever you're doing, please don't stop." Amaka smiled. Amaka was on a mission. She wasn't just learning how to speak properly. She wanted to be independent, confident, and fully prepared to receive her husband in a way he never expected. Then, there was one thing left to do. She had to learn to drive. Her husband had bought her a car long time ago, but fear had kept her from using it. That was about to change. After one Sunday service, Amaka approached Brother Chinedu, a well-respected member of their church. He owned a driving school. "Brother Chinedu, please, I want to learn how to drive," she said. Chinedu smiled. Sister Amaka, are you sure?" "Yes, I am," she replied. Every evening they practiced. At first, Amaka was nervous, gripping the steering wheel like her life depended on it. But with time, she got better. Soon, she was driving with confidence. She was ready. The 3 months passed faster than she expected. The night before Tony was to return, he called. "Amaka, I'll be landing tomorrow. I want to arrange for someone to pick me up at the airport." Amaka smiled. "Don't worry. I have made necessary arrangements." Tony was confused. "Arrangements? Who's coming to pick me?" "Just relax," Amaka said. The next day, as passengers streamed out of the arrival wing, Tony pulled his suitcase and looked around. Then his eyes landed on Amaka. She was standing there, holding their baby, looking more stunning than ever. His heart swelled with pride and emotion. But his surprise didn't end there. After hugging them tightly, Amaka walked over to the car, got into the driver's seat and started the engine. Tony blinked. "Wait, what?" She grinned. "Enter, Jare. Let's go home, or you don't want to go home." As she smoothly navigated the Lagos roads, Tony sat quietly in the passenger seat, watching in shock. This was not the Amaka he left behind. This was a new woman, a brand new woman. As Amaka drove home, Tony couldn't stop staring at her. "Amaka, are you sure it's you driving this car?" he asked. He was half shocked and half joking. She laughed. "Why are you looking at me like that? I told you I made arrangements." Their baby giggled in the back seat, clapping her tiny hands as if she was celebrating her mother's transformation. By the time they arrived home, Tony was still in disbelief. He had been gone for just 3 months. Yet, everything about his wife had changed. The way she dressed, the way she spoke, even the confidence in her step. That evening, after they had settled in, he finally said what was on his mind. "Amaka, I don't know what happened while I was away, but I like it." He held her hand You know what? I'm super proud of you. Amaka smiled. She had done it. Not just for Tony, but for herself. She had grown, upgraded, and discovered a stronger version of the woman she once was. She looked into his eyes. Her heart was steady. I just wanted to be the best version of myself, Amaka said. Tony pulled her into a warm embrace. You are Amaka, and I don't want to lose you. Amaka chuckled. You are not going anywhere. That night, as they sat together talking and laughing, like they hadn't done in years, Tony knew one thing for sure. He had fallen in love with his wife all over again. And this time, he wasn't going to take her for granted. The moral lesson of the story. The story teaches that transformation starts with a personal decision. Amaka had to first choose to improve herself before any real change could happen. Also, the story teaches that when you invest in yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally, you naturally gain the respect and admiration from those around you. The story teaches that marriage thrives when both partners put in effort. Instead of fighting her husband's infidelity with anger, Amaka silently worked on herself, showing that actions can sometimes be powerful than words. Finally, the story teaches that sometimes people only realize the value of what they have when they see it evolving. Tony had taken Amaka for granted, but her transformation made him appreciate her all over again.